In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate moving forward with a project. We're going to start a project here, and first I'm going to show you how to install native apps using our OS. Okay, so we'll install a VM, or rather create a virtual machine, and I'm going to go ahead and maybe use the Ubuntu machine. Okay, and then we'll use several commands, and I'll demonstrate how to create your apps. Okay, so let's begin. First, just to verify, let's go ahead and click on the services and products here. Let's go to Compute Engine, and notice in this instance there is no virtual machine at this point. Okay, now I could create something right from the Google Cloud console here by clicking on the Create Instance, and I'm going to show you this. But before I create from the GUI interface, let me open up the shell here. So I'm going to activate the Google Cloud Shell, and this is going to provision a temporary Linux box here. Let me expand this so we can see the actual space of Cloud Shell. So once the Cloud Shell is connected, I'm going to go ahead and create a VM using the shell. Okay, and then I'll take a look at and we'll see how we can create it using the GUI interface as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to run the gcloud. That's the command, so you got to remember this. So let's type in gcloud compute instances. All right, so once I've told the shell that I want to compute an instance, right? An instance of what? I'm going to go ahead and create a VM, an instance of a VM, and that VM is called Ubuntu. So I'm going to go ahead and say create Ubuntu, and then specify the arguments here, or parameters. I'm going to say image, say project, Ubuntu OS Cloud. Now again, you can always go ahead and use the GUI interface. I'm going to show you this too, but it's always nice to work with some of the command line or the shell. So whichever you're comfortable with, you could use. And then I'm going to specify, let's say, the image, and then the build. I believe it's 1604 Xenial dash, and that's version 201.60429. Now, how do I know all of this? Okay, you're probably wondering, how do I know the actual name? Well, I can always go back to my products and services. I'm going to show you this so you don't get confused. Go to Compute Engine. Let me move this down a little bit. Let me go ahead and create the instance here and click on the boot disk here. Okay, and click on change, and notice within this I have several options. I can run the core OS, Ubuntu, Red Hat, or Windows Server. So here's the 16.04. okay, so that's the VM that I want to provision. That's how I got this Xenial 1604. Okay, all right, let's go back to our shell here. So once I have this, I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to say unrecognized arguments. All right, what did I miss? Oh, just a spelling mistake here. Let's see if I can fix this and make sure my spelling is correct. So gcloud compute instances, create Ubuntu image, and then project should be spelled correctly. And then let me verify the rest of the spellings. They seem pretty okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter one more time, and this time it's going to go ahead and ask me for the following instances, a time zone. Okay, so there are 15 time zones listed, so whichever time zone you're in, just simply choose that number. So I am in time zone 11. I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to start configuring the Ubuntu VM for me. Perfect. So once the machine is created, it gives me the URL and also tells me the name, the zone, the machine type, which is N1-standard-1, and then also provides an internal IP and an external IP, and shows me that the status is running. Okay, now let me verify the status. Let me make this a little smaller. Let's go back to our VM. click on VM instances. Let's go back to our product and services. Let's go home, just to make sure everything is refreshed, basically. Let's see if it did create under the compute engine or not. All right, let's refresh, reload, and perfect. So here's our Ubuntu machine. Tells you the zone, East 1, and it's with 1 CPU, about 4 gigs of hard disk space. Internal IP is this, external IP is also available. So if I were to click on the external IP, it's going to provision or take me to the URL for this particular VM. And of course, at this point, nothing is on it. We will come back to this once we start creating something, okay? So it's going to say the site can't be reached because we don't have a web server running yet, okay? So I'm going to close this for now. All right, let's go back to our shell. So let's go ahead and activate our shell again. Since I refreshed the entire page, so it needs to connect to the shell again. So once the VM has been created and we've verified by going to the compute engine on our Google Cloud platform, and the machine seems to be running. Perfect. Next, I'm going to go ahead and in fact create a secure protocol to connect to the machine itself. Okay, so that'll be the gcloud command. Make sure click on my shell here. So this will be something like gcloud compute, and it's SSH Ubuntu. So it's going to say command not found because I didn't type the gcloud, I just typed cloud. So if I go too fast, this is what happens, right? So it's gcloud compute SSH and then our Ubuntu machine. Perfect. Let's click enter. And it's going to one more time ask me the time zone. I'm going to say it's the same time zone, number 11, US East. And next it's going to go ahead and run the SSH for me. Now the important thing here I want to show you before I move forward is the fact that to run a command as the administrator, which is user root, we need to use sudo, right? So if you're using Ubuntu, use sudo command, then you're running everything as the administrator. So whatever command you run, just type sudo before the actual command, okay? So for example, let me clear this. So we start from the top here, so easy for you to see. All right, next, I'm going to run the update. So I'm going to make sure Ubuntu is updated and we have everything current. So let's go ahead and do sudo apt and then get command and then the update. So as soon as I hit enter, it's going to run and get the updates for the machine. And once it's done, it tells me that it's done. Perfect. So moving forward, we're doing a good job so far. Okay, let me just verify here. So let me clear out of here. So start over. And then we're going to run the Nginx instance on this machine. And Nginx is our web server, and which will also act as a load balancer once we put up several Docker containers later on. It's going to act as a load balancer as well. But for right now, we just need to install Nginx on the VM. So let's do nginx, which is Nginx. And I'm going to use the -v and hit enter. So it doesn't find it, so go ahead and I'm going to use the sudo apt install and then nginx, and asks me, do I want to continue, because it says that the following new package will be installed, which are all of these packages part of the Nginx. So I'm going to go ahead and type yes, hit enter, and it's going to go ahead and get that package and install it. So once the Nginx is installed, I'm going to make sure that it starts as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give a command to start Nginx. So it'll be the systctl or systemctl command rather. So it'll be sudo systemctl, and then I'm going to start my Nginx. Now at this point, it doesn't really tell me whether Nginx has started or not. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I see whether Nginx has started or not. So let me clear out of here first. And to verify whether our web server is running, I'm going to go ahead and do sudo systemctl command and then status for Nginx. Of course, make sure my spellings are correct. So it'll be sudo systemctl status and Nginx. Perfect. Hit enter. And wonderful. It tells me that the Nginx service is running. A high performance web server and a reverse proxy server has been loaded and running fine. So next I can go ahead and in fact test the web server as well. So I can do this by simply running the curl command http : and then of course the URL, which is 127.0.0.1. okay, so just the local, and hit the enter key, and perfect. So we have made sure that our web server Nginx has been installed, verified, running, and then of course we tested as well. So hope this helps. Practice creating a VM instance using the Google Cloud GUI interface or the shell as well, and install a native app so you get to practice, and the more you do it, easier it'll become for you. Okay, so I hope this helps, and let's move to the next lesson.